Hello, everybody. Welcome to, it feels weird saying this, the LongBox Paradox. It's been over a year since I've decided to do a LongBox Paradox episode. Um, and I just had this random urge to just do a comic chat. A lot going on in the comic world lately. A lot of negative, actually. Gonna be flying solo, but I also, since this is gonna be kind of an open discussion chat, please hit me up with stuff you want to talk about or things that are on your mind about the comic industry, or just comics you want to talk about. Hello, Mr. Big Daddy Ross. Follow him on Instagram. He's always showing off books along with back-to-back issues, Morbius Comics, and Leroy Maybe or Mabe. I could be messing it up. I good follows on Instagram, especially if you want to see people who collect. They're not really flipping, and just a love of the books and the industry. Also, I want to shout out Morbius Comics. Homeboy went to Terrificon and broke a slab in front of the CGC booth just to break balls, but not too badly. I'll always love Morbius. Salute, brother. Not on here, but I just had to shout him out when I can. So, as I kind of alluded to, there's been some weird shit going on in the last 2 weeks, and I'll just start in with it. C2E2, this whole Black Flag Comics thing. So I have some thoughts. So there are the people who are genuine collectors who are mad that they weren't able to get the book. I get that. Then there's we're mad at influencers and whatnot sellers for cutting the line. So I think the discussion starts and ends with the ethics of the business of Black Flag Comics. And it kind of spirals from there. Now, there are other flippers who are pissed because people got over on them. They weren't able to do what they normally do. And you know what? Be mad, but you kind of do the same shit. Then you have your genuine collectors out there who are upset. And again, I understand that completely. Then there's the CGC people who are super, super angry, and I get that too, because CGC has been doing some weird shit with this book. So John, I do have slabs, but most of the stuff I have slabbed, I have a reading copy of. I have a weird Grail personal collection for slabs. I'm in a weird place with them. Like, I see the appeal of them. I don't think they're the be all end all. Somebody I used to buy from used to have the any grade is better than no grade. And I don't necessarily agree with that. And honestly, like, there are times I've actually bought books that were cheaper graded than not graded. In particular, my co-host Gambit he needed one book for his X-Men run for the Claremont Burn, and it was the first appearance of Dazzler. I want to say it was like 129 of the run. And I looked for a while. I found a CGC 9.6 that was actually cheaper than the Raws out there, and I found that to be weird. I bought it for Gambit for his birthday, and it ended his collection or his run. It was the last book he needed, so I was really great to help out with that. I actually had a good bonus, so I treated him and my other co-host Jen. I got her an Alan Moore Swamp Thing CGC 9.6 for the Anatomy Lesson issue, which is the Swamp Thing origin retold and redone for the Moore run. And I bought her an original page from Detective Comics of J.H. Williams, Detective Comics run for Batwoman. Batwoman is her favorite character, so I went ahead and bought an original page, which strangely very affordable. And I don't think this is going to be a very random episode with my deep thoughts. I don't think there is a right way or wrong way to collect. I do think there is the weird thing with the flippers where you're manipulating the system. And the influencers. I've had issues with certain websites that I felt because they were heavily invested in that they were kind of all of a sudden telling these people they're hot books, and most of their Illuminati are resellers on the net. In particular, there was the whole theory with Lady Thor where they were kind of putting it out there that it was going to be the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Rosalind, and people just started buying it up and boosted that book up to almost $300, and then just to see it just fall and crash. I'm not saying the sites are bad, because I've actually had some turn me on to books that I actually really enjoyed. Hench Girl was one from Scout Comics that I ended up loving. We Can Never Go Home Again was another one from Black Mask. So sometimes they've turned me on to stuff, especially Niobe, She Is Death, I think, from Stranger Comics. That was another one that I bought. At a certain point, I was kind of speccing, but weirdly, I was long-term speccing. I always have when I buy a book. Like, I am drinking a Macallan 12-year. Hello, Mastodon. So this whole acetate thing is so weird. And then you find out Clayton Crane's an investor in Black Flag Comics. And it's just weird. And then Marvel has no idea this is going on. Selling the book for $85 is fucking insane. And then them boosting up to $100 after they ran down. The owner of the company, that weird video he made, just basically telling people how much he invested and, he needed to flip stuff real fast. I don't know how that's a fucking business model, bro. Like, not selling 75 of them at a shot. And I know that there is, one influencer Instagram personality got caught in particular because everybody noticed them because they put themselves out there. My thought on that is, if you're going to become a face, then know that people are going to recognize you. People are going to be watching. So don't act surprised when you get some pushback from some pissed off people. And little secret, I don't think people know when they're going after these whatnot people. Some of them have in their contracts they can't engage in negative ways on the internet or on Instagram or anything that they are promoting on, especially when it has to do with whatnot. So basically, if they react or go back at you, they're going to get their contract terminated. Little dirty secret I found out about. So think about that. You're never going to get the response you want from them unless they risk losing their partnership. I don't know if it's even worth getting mad at these people. Like, yeah, you outed them. What's that going to do? Nothing. If you watch Morbius's story from yesterday, he basically said, you're never going to cancel these people. You can choose to look away, bring your business elsewhere, but that's not going to change. So I just wanted to touch on that. And apparently the Boston Comic-Con, we're seeing weird shit going on with Black Flag again, where they just sold to vendors at the beginning and they just put lollipops on the booth. Subtle jab at your customers, which is a great way to endear yourself to them. So I now there's another angry sec now with CGC where they came out and doubled down that, yes, altering the cover like it was with 4 staples or whatever the fuck it was, that's fine. The weird part is, and someone brought it up, that I believe it was Stray Dogs, which had an acetate cover. there are no 9.9s or 10s on record in the census at all. And I think someone had broken it down. There was like 3 10s out of this run for Black Flag's Ultimate Fallout 4. There were a number of 9.9s. I haven't seen this many since Batman Damned number 1 and 2, where because of that cardstock cover, it was popping more 10s and 9.9s than I thought ever possible. And, you have Batman's dick show up in it or a shadow of it, and that just drove it right the fuck up. So after all this, I kind of decided that I wanted to kind of get back to comics and sharing what we love or why we love comics. And John's Comics and I started doing just a little tag, must reads, share your favorite comics, comics we love. And there's been some people getting onto it, but I just wanted to start talking about, stories that I think people should read, like spreading the love of comics. Comics for me has been in my life since I was a little kid. I did not have the best childhood, and they were an escape for me. I want to say like the addiction really started. My mom get me to shut up because I was kind of a kid who wouldn't shut the fuck up. We were at the laundromat, and she was like, "Here, just get a comic." And it was either Uncanny X-Men 213 or it was Marvel Saga. I can't remember which one. It might have been Marvel Saga because just Marvel Saga is telling the whole tale of the Marvel universe and just seeing all these characters, and it's filling in the blanks of the storylines. And I was like, holy shit, like, this is awesome. Like, I need more of this. And then I bought X-Men, and X-Men, like, you jump right in the fucking middle of it and you don't know what's going on. You just pick your point and you keep running. And I had this like thing open up in me, and it was like a floodgate open. I'd always liked Batman, but I think I was Marvel Zombie growing up. And I kind of like shut down for a while, and I just became I read all the time. It was my escape from what was going on in my life. And then Marvel Universe, the Handbook of the Marvel Universe came out, and I started learning about all these other characters. And then I started, going to the comic store and getting all these issues that I thought were, key issue story points. In particular, the issue that I remember wanting to hunt down was Captain America. It was John Byrne doing the art, and it was Captain America in England with Union Jack and fighting Baron Blood, and it had that shadowed look of Captain America using his shield to behead Baron Blood, and for some reason that was a key book to me I had to have. And just I hunted down a lot of death books, apparently. Hobgoblin was just coming out. So there was big stories happening at the time. I think I just missed Secret War. It wasn't Invaders, but it tied into Invaders. Yeah, the grades happening to pop up so fast. CGC has always been problematic with their turnaround times. So either they paid for the Very Express version of it, they drove down to, was it Clearwater or wherever outside of Tampa? Something had to have happened, because to have them turn around, I don't know when the production of this was. For all I know, I'm not giving you finish that thought. It's very weird. I think John's Comics just had one show up like a year later. I forget who it was. It might have been John. And I know Silver Age books were always slower to turn around, and moderns were a little bit quicker. But I mean, I remember they had that big thing like, we're hiring all these new graders. Our times are going to increase. It took me 7 months to get 2 books back. And I think that's about the time I stopped with them. Like, I didn't want to fucking deal with them anymore. Not that CBCS is much better. Their turnaround times are a little bit better. It's just the weird thing of when you have a CBCS book and you do decide to turn around and sell it, you're automatically taking a 20% hit of what the CGC book would go for. Now, that being said, I will, if I'm looking for a key book, I will turn around and buy a CBCS book cheaper, or I've found PGX books and buy them and crack them and then have them pressed and turn around and resend them to CGC. But at some points, I do think it's like a weird Ponzi game. I literally had a book I sent to CGC. It was the Scott Snyder Batman #1. First turnaround, they gave me a 9.6. I cracked it. I resent it. I got a 9.8. Didn't do anything to the book. Didn't press it. Didn't touch it. So the inconsistencies with them is fucking incredible. And I've had weird things because I remember DC had those Jim Lee sketch covers that if you bought, I forget how many of it might have been the Master Race, where if you bought 1,000 copies, you got the sketch cover from Jim Lee. And I remember people freaking out about that because he was submitting directly. I don't know, like it's. I like the idea of the slabs. I also have been driven mad by selling on there because my favorite was the people trying to return books to me because it had a Newton ring. Shouldn't be the seller's responsibility because CGC has a weird thing and sometimes Newton rings show up. It doesn't affect the book's grade, nothing. It's just, I don't like it on the case. And it's maddening to me. It's fucking maddening. And I'm sorry this is starting out as Dan's bitch fest about CGC. But it's been in the conversation lately, and I felt it was a kind of good time to bring it up before getting into talking about some books. And I'd welcome the chat too. If there's some books or things you want to talk about, bring it up. I am open for everything at this point. I will also bring up how happy I was with the Netflix version of Neil Gaiman's Sandman. It made minor changes, but I felt that it stayed very, very loyal and truthful to the source material. Some very good casting, some casting changes I was iffy about, but I ended up liking at the end. I would also recommend anybody who likes action movies, Prey, the Predator requel. I don't know what the fuck we want to call it, but I loved it. It was very minimalist. I know the CGI was a little iffy, I guess would be. I mean, it didn't really have much of a budget. But Amber Midthunder, after it, she is my pick if they're ever going to do an X-23 Laura Kinney movie. She is my Wolverine. I want her to be. She was so good. She has a great vulnerability yet fierceness to her that I loved. It was good. I went in with no expectations. I was like, well, fuck, it's on Hulu. How good can it be? Because that shows they had no faith in it. And they fucked up. They really fucked up putting it out on there. Great for Hulu, bad for everyone else. Yes. Fuck yes. Thank you, Gore, for bringing that up. So one of the things about Alan Moore that I don't think enough Americans know about is his Marvel Man book, which became Miracle Man over here. It is so well written. It's hyper violent. But Neil Gaiman with Mark Buckingham are doing Miracle Man, The Silver Age. There is a issue 0 coming out, and I'm very excited for it, and I hope more people pick up the old Miracle Man runs that were redone by Marvel, although I'm going to complain about, in particular, the recoloring. So on the new paper, a lot of times they're recoloring some of these reprints, and it does a disservice. In particular, the Alan Moore Sandman omnibus that came out. Uh, Karate Kevin, when we did the stream, the he brought up and showed that they did recoloring and redoing of images. They added stuff to it. I'm not really big on that. I thought it was a bad choice. Also, Jenna Coleman was great as Joanna Constantine, to the point where people want a spinoff. John, you are in for a very good surprise then when you read the omnibus. It is such a good story, and when you think of it as it's a more adult version of Shazam, you will, I think you'll be surprised. But when they have Kid Miracle Man, there's some stuff in there that is really hard to get through, but ultimately satisfying when you get to the end. Oh yeah, V for Vendetta. Warrior Magazine, that actually had a lot of stuff in it back then. Between that and 2000 AD, which, since we're on the subject of British stuff, I'm going to bitch and complain to no end that Carl Urban has been basically politicking nonstop for a Dredd sequel. And Dredd was such a good movie. So there is conspiracy behind that. Alex Garland secretly directed it, but he was not part of the Directors Guild. Problematic, but you could tell it was kind of Alex Garland when you start watching his later movies. It's very apparent. Carl Urban was such a good Judge Dredd. And then when you get into Side Judge Anderson, where I have the biggest crush on the actress who played her in it. She's been in a lot of stuff. Blanking on her name right now. But I thought she was really good, and just the world of Dredd was amazing. I'm trying to think. I just read the Marvel previews the other day. I know there was another. I think there might be the second omnibus for Miracle Man they solicited in it. Ballin Dredd, so good. Weirdly, like, I don't think enough people have read Dredd, like know who Judge Dredd is, but that whole storyline when they brought the Dark Judges in was fantastic. I bought the big anthologies where there were the black and white books quite a while ago when my B&N was closing, and every now and again I pull them out and I'll start reading them. And I am cautiously looking forward to the Grendel Netflix series, which I did the must-reads, favorite reads the other day, the first video of it, and it seemed fitting. And I had to mention that don't try to speculate on it, because the first appearance of Grendel is so damn expensive, and it's just not worth it. This is a character that is a great read that I don't think the casual fan is going to understand. I tried going through the whole Grendel cycle, how it becomes a legacy, a religion. Hunter Rose is such a simplistic beginning of being just a evil Batman analog, and how Matt Wagner was able to grow this character into like a legacy, a religion, and everything else. Dark Horse is re-releasing all of the omnibuses, so I think the one with Christine Spar comes out next month or the month after, and they're going to keep staggering every couple of months a new one come out. Grendel Prime, worth it just for the Bisley covers alone. Matt Wagner's Mage is still one of my favorite books, even though it took a decade, 20 years in between runs. But the use of the myths and legends where, we have a guy who looks like Kevin Smith who's basically got a baseball bat, and he is basically King Arthur. Like, his baseball bat is Camelot. It's Excalibur. I also want to shout out No Good Comics. He posted his Sandman books today, and I'm jealous and kind of resentful that I kind of fucked up by not buying a lot of those early on. I know Jen bought the first appearance of Death, and she paid quite a pretty penny from it. I remember her freaking out because I think she spent $200 on an Instagram sale of not knowing if it was going to be real or not. Yes, Hunter Rose's first girlfriend was his fencing teacher, and yes, he was underage. She was grooming him, and she dies of cancer, I think. They even go as far as that person that works for him, he killed. So after killing him, he adopts the daughter. And then, like, he's an author, so he writes these books, My Little Chickadee, and it's basically like books about this girl he adopts who ends up finding out who he is and hates his guts. I don't want to ruin the storyline, but the omnibus is $29.99. You might get it a little cheaper on Amazon right now or catch a sale. Totally worth picking up. And it's also nice to see the evolution of Matt Wagner's art as the series goes on. I also was recommending The Last God by Philip Kennedy Johnson and Riccardo Federici. One of the few books, the interior art is as good as what's shown on the covers. Yes, Grendel is, and my weird elevator pitch for selling Grendel is you get to the second series, Devil's Legacy, and your female Grendel is fighting a kabuki vampire that steals eyes. What more do you need to sell it? A kabuki dancing vampire. It's amazing. Like, you can't make this shit. Well, you can make this shit up. One of the other series I like to recommend, and it's not for everybody, Planetary by Warren Ellis with John Cassidy on art, where it kind of takes you through an alternate comic history where, like, I think it was the first issue, you end up finding Doc Savage. The second issue, you're on Kaiju Monster Island. And all through, like, they had an issue that was nothing but the Vertigo universe. There was an issue where Elijah Snow meets Sherlock Holmes and learns to be a detective and also fights Dracula and freezes his dick and kicks it off. You can't make this shit up. Like, it was only 25 issues, so, like, you can buy a collected edition that has everything in it. Basically, if I were a door-to-door Bible salesman, this would be the book I'd be bringing to everyone's door. It's just got a little bit of everything, and it has one of my favorite female characters in comics, Jaquita Wagner. I also, writer people hate, and after his animated version of The Killing Joke, I understand why people hate him. But Brian Azzarello with Eduardo Riso doing 100 Bullets, which, again, I know I say this a lot, it's one of my favorites. It is a pulp novel, basically like Chinatown meets, I'm trying to think of the author now, and I can't remember. The basic plot line is this agent shows up, and he gives you a briefcase with a gun and 100 untraceable bullets with a dossier of someone who wronged you and says, do whatever you're going to do with it, but this is your chance. And each book especially the trades, focuses on a different character, and then starts opening up this bigger plot of the world where there was this great crime that happened in the nation, and they keep building up. I believe it's issue 75. They finally reveal what it was, and it's pretty awesome. Also, it kind of tells the secret of what happened to a certain colony that disappeared, and when the colony disappeared, there was just the writing Croatoa written. It all blends together, but it's a conspiracy theory, a plot, and everything in between. And it is a series I love. Chat, go ahead and bring up some books that you think people should read or be buying that might be missing. I can tell you I am not enjoying Chip Zdarsky's Batman right now. And I didn't think since Tom King I'd not like a Batman, but this one's just so bland. He's even stealing plot lines from the animated series with this failsafe robot. I also want to shout out Rom V's Swamp Thing. It's gone on a little bit long. I think it would have been a solid 12-issue series, but the way he's not falling into the Alan Moore trap of trying to be Alan Moore, I think is a good move, where he's dancing around it, but he's not slavishly going into it. So Romvy has actually been on a good kick. I've been enjoying his Aquaman Andromeda with Christian Ward, which Christian Ward, his art is so trippy. You can't go wrong with the Miller Daredevil. There are some things with his writing that aged poorly, but I love it. Especially, he was touching on stuff, also social issues. There was the one issue about the woman who was being domestically abused, where, I mean, listen, Miller deserves some of the shit he gets, but man, his early art and his use of spacing and the way his panels can tell the story and the action going on in it was fucking brilliant. And I love that Disney Plus, with the Daredevil series that got announced, they're doing the Miller Mazzucchelli Born Again, which again, if you haven't read it, go ahead and pick it up. If you want to see a hero fall and basically end up being homeless and see them rise up again, it's like the Marvel version of Rocky. David Lapham's a weird person, because like he is very respected, but if you start talking about his books, most people know the name, but they've never read his stuff. Miller Daredevil. There is something else I'm not a huge fan of John Romita Jr., but for Daredevil, I really like the Typhoid Mary story that went on with Ann Nocenti writing with Romita Jr.'s art. And it's hard for me to say because Romita Jr.'s art is bothersome to me. It's just so muddy. I can appreciate it in some circumstances, but I'm just not in love with it. A book that I am picking up and buying lately, though, and I will continue to buy them, is funny enough, the Miller Claremont Wolverine. I don't understand why that book feels so undervalued to me, but I find number ones and number twos of that frequently for dirt cheap. And I just complained about people hoarding stuff, but I don't buy it before people get a chance to. But if I see it out in the wild, I will buy it. And that's one of the books. If I see Wolverine 1 it's just sitting out there, I will always pick it up just because I feel like that story hasn't been mined. I know the Wolverine movie kind of touched into it, but it didn't do what I needed it to do. Like, I wanted so much more out of it, and it never gave it to me. Ooh. So Ramita Jr. Okay, so I have a soft spot for Ramita Jr.'s X-Men because that's when I entered the X-Men universe. It was right after Barry Windsor Smith had that amazing cover, well, two covers, but it was the one where Wolverine fights Lady Deathstrike and is basically almost on his deathbed afterward. The first issue I ever bought was the one with him clawing the cover down the middle. And it was him recovering from his fight with Lady Deathstrike, and Rachel Summers is kind of going a little bit rogue, trying to fight the Black Queen, and Wolverine confronts her, and he ends up, snicking her right in the chest. That was my first X-Men book I ever bought, and I just remember going, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but I want to read more. And I always remember that being a big thing for me. And then, Nimrod was, giant pink robot, which, whatever, like, funny enough, my first introduction to Wolverine was Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and they had him being Australian. It's like they were knowing years later that Hugh Jackman was going to be playing him, a kind of like jacked Australian, because I remember him like basically telling Spider-Man if he wants a shrimp on the Barbie, and then later on I'm reading and I find out he's fucking Canadian. Yeah, comic stuff that blew my mind. Wolverine was Canadian. Never drank Molson, never drank Labatt's. Fucking broke my brain. Some other indies that I have really enjoyed, talking about Ram V, The Many Deaths of Layla Starr. How Vertigo never made that title, I don't understand. That ended up being a big one for me. And I'm weirdly in the camp of James Tynion. I like his horror stuff, but I don't like anything else he does that's not horror. Nice House on the Lake has been very good. I would have loved to see Steve Irwin play Wolverine. Watch me take my claw up, really piss him off. Sorry that I'm hitting that South Park thing where they had Steve Irwin like talking about pissing off all these animals. He's like, I'm gonna put my finger up his butt, piss him off. It's right up there with their episode where they had Russell Crowe going around the world fighting people. I've also, in the world of speculation, it's funny seeing people trying to chase down the first Kang and then realizing, shit, I can't afford that first Kang. And it kind of makes me laugh because Kang is a character that is known and popular, but I don't think people understand how early his first appearance was. To me, it's almost like chasing down Doctor Doom. Like, you can get it, but you're gonna pay. Let's see. So I'm gonna ask, like, what are some books people are waiting on or are looking forward to? I kind of am all over the place, but definitely the Miracle Man is going to be a big one for me. The Kang fandom, I think it's because of the Loki series, and people don't understand how much Kang kind of is a confusing ass character once they get into all the variants. Parker Girls, as a Terry Moore fan, I am terrible with Parker Girls. Like, I read Terry Moore, but I haven't been slavish to it. Like, even what was the series that the one with the monkey. God damn it, I don't remember. Was it Motor Girl? No, not Motor Girl. Fuck, whatever series it was before Serial, I just didn't get into. But Serial, I will recommend to anybody. Fucking great series, especially if you're into horror, serial killer shit. Very much so. And I also, sorry to double back on something that just occurred to me when I just checked Instagram. There's nothing I love more than a hypocrite, and there is a YouTuber who does a lot of speculation stuff, who's done nothing but trash like Black Flag and the whole ultimate Fallout 4. To see them turn around and then enter a contest from a whatnot seller to get that book made me laugh to no end, and kind of like made me have to call them a hypocrite. And also the whatnot person going, well, I only got 10 copies of this book. I don't know if that's a humble brag or if you're just being stupid at this point given what's going on, but right on, buddy. Yeah, I might need to go back and read Motor Girl. I kind of fucked up on that. Hey, what's up, Gambit? Also, I want to shout out Gambit did the second story in a Kickstarter of Cthulhu Invades Wonderland. He just did a signing for it the other day. I know Bearded Comic Bro did a couple of interviews with the people from there, and he just got his, and some of the stuff is just getting sent out now to people. So if you can find it, go check it out. Also, Gambit's done many sketch cards for Dynamite Comics for their card sets. Definitely Chaos Comics, and there was a Dawn series for Joseph Michael Linsner he did. So just want to call that out. Make sure that it's known that he's done that stuff. And of course, he's at Puerto Rico Comic-Con every year for people in that area who watch that. I don't know if I have viewers from Puerto Rico. But on the subject of stuff that I think people should read, give me a second. I got to dig it out. Sorry. Shit. This is what happens when I don't. Okay, well, I put the book away, and I don't remember where I put it. But I had posted a video about Chicacabra by Tom Beelan the other day, and he actually came into the comments and said that he had the sequel coming out. Chicacabra is a great heartfelt book about a young girl whose life is not going so great, and she is basically possessed by a chupacabra that ends up being a government experiment. This is what happens when you have too many books. You put something away and you forget where you put it. And now I am embarrassed by the fact that I did this. In Stock Trades has it for $5.99 right now, and it is a 128-page book. I honestly think it's a fantastic read. We did a great ink panels on it, so if you want to go back and watch that. But he agreed to be on the show when the sequel comes out, so I'm very excited to talk to him about that. I have never heard of Phantomas. Huh. Okay, this is fascinating. I'm learning about something I didn't know about. So going forward, also, I just want to make a quick announcement that Ink Panels is going to be pushed back a month, and as well as the Swamp Thing, Saga of Swamp Thing book club show. I got some stuff going on, so September is going to be a loaded month. But things are going to continue. Gambit's pick for the next book club is Wanted by Mark Miller and J.G. Jones. Weirdly, that trade is expensive now, so I'm probably just going to pull out my individual issues, so I'm going to have to dig for it. I have the director's cut issues, but it'll be interesting revisiting something that I thought was super violent. Also seeing Jorge Jimenez. Oh, fuck me. Sorry. That's Chica Copper's right behind me the whole time. So, again, art, very cartoony, and I think it very much works for this book. It is set in Puerto Rico. It is a coming of age, growing up book dealing with grief and tragedy. And possibly it hit me in a place because of what I was going through at the time or hadn't addressed in my life. But great book. And again, in stock trades, $5.99. Like, you can't beat that. Plus, man, oh, fuck, or Crossed Book Club. Crossed is so much. There's so much crossed out. I don't know if I can handle it. Like, Preacher will be I think Preacher would happen as far as Garth Ennis stuff before that, or even Hitman. Crossed. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. That's. I didn't get a whole lot through that. Back to it. Jorge Jimenez, the Batman artist, posted his pages from the Nemesis sequel with Mark Miller, and I'm pretty damn excited. So now we know which artist got poached from DC, because there was a whole Bleeding Cool article about artists from DC and Marvel were poached by Millar World. Supposedly one of the X-Men artists has been poached. We'll see how that goes. And also hearing Hickman's back for Marvel, also interesting, because I doing a giant crossover. Yes, Crossed would be a bit much for. I honestly think Preacher would be a journey that might get real weird. So Gambit, I mentioned earlier that your X-Men run got finished because we were talking about the whole CGC thing going on and collectors and how you collect. And I know some of your run is raw, some graded, definitely one graded because I got it for you. I go. Yeah, I think we can get Sid back for that. I go back and forth of like, women love Preacher because of the romance story. I honestly think it's because it's the romance story. Also, the secret villain of the book is Cassidy. And I don't think people realize it, but it took me years later to realize that Cassidy was the true villain of that book. And it's one of those things like it can be viewed many different ways. But Cassidy is such a horrible fucking character in that book, and the more you get into it, the more shitty you learn he is. And I'm still surprised that worked on TV. Like, people love that TV show for the most part, and I didn't. Also, thank you, John. I appreciate that. There is a series that I think Vertigo did that I don't know if it would do well on TV, but I'd be curious to see, and that's American Vampire. And mainly because it jumps timelines, especially after The Strain. I think it would do well because it has like old school Hollywood with Pearl, where she wants to be famous and then she gets turned into a vampire. You have a kind of Matthew McConaughey scumbag Southern villain in I would keep one. I can't remember his name. Something Sweet. There. I think there's a place for it. It has to be a TV series. It can't be a movie. But then again, I don't want people buying up this shit either, because every time something gets announced as a movie, it becomes hot. Oh, 100% on HBO Max, but now the HBO Max is changing up things and just canceling fucking everything. Which brings me to, how do you spend $70 million on a movie and cancel it and just shelve it, like not even put on streaming? This Batgirl movie stuff is fascinating to me. It is 100% fascinating. Like, you're literally ready to throw away $70 million because I don't know why. Like, I know people were pissed that there was going to be a Latina Batgirl, but are they that mad? Just random musings about, and then you have so Warner got bought out by Discovery, and Discovery was like, not only do we not want Batgirl to release, we're not even going to put it on HBO Max. We're literally just throwing the fucking movie out. And the directors and the actors had to learn from fucking Twitter that it got canceled and thrown out, which is even more insane. Like, you just threw 6 months of your life away for a movie, which now, especially, I imagine some of their contracts had residuals built into it that if it did this, or this, there was a kicker that you get points. Gone. It exists no more. And then you have this Flash movie where Ezra Miller can't fucking stop getting arrested. Like, the only thing this time, it was in Vermont, not Hawaii. And they're talking about, like, do we shelve this movie? Do we throw it out? Do we still put it out? Do we use it to recast? The whole DC universe is a fucking nightmare, and it shouldn't be. Also, rumor now that HBO Max is canceling Doom Patrol and Titans. But they're going to keep Harley Quinn because that's consistently solid and it's animated, so probably less money. It's just, this whole landscape's weird. It very much is. So Flash Comics, I don't know if I like it recently. I think the Williamson run was it for me. Like, it did enough to change things and stay truthful, but I'm not really liking the current run. Oh, like, as we know by now, like, Warner Brothers is a fucking hot mess. But you know what, though? I can't wait to watch fucking Black Adam. I like The Rock. Like, the only thing missing from this fucking movie is get me Jason Statham in it. I don't care as who, but Jason Statham is so deadpan hilarious. I don't know. I maybe have a man crush on Jason Statham. I don't know. Like, he's such a, I don't want to go on a Jason Statham rant, but yes, Black Adam, I'm interested in, like, the Justice Society seeing Hawkman, Dr. Fate. There's supposedly this after credit sequence that's going to lead into I don't know what, because I don't know what the DC universe is anymore. Is it going to become the Shazam universe? Like, I don't know. Like, it's crazy because I don't even know if they know what the fuck they're doing at this point. They haven't even greenlit Batman 2, which I felt like that would have been an automatic like green light. I don't know. Like, I like the Batman. I other than the Nolan ones, it's like right up there. I can go back and forth on my 1 and 2 on that. Listen, the transport. I will die on my hill for Crank. Crank 1 and 2 are some of the dumbest, most entertaining movies I've ever watched. And I will continue to watch them because, for fuck's sake, there is a scene where Jason Statham's so fucking cracked out. He's this Asian guy staring at him. He's like, why are you looking at me like it says cunt on my forehead? He turns, looks in the mirror, it says cunt on his forehead. Comedy gold, especially with Jason Statham delivering it. I'll ask the chat of all 3 or 4 people in here. What is a grail that you're hunting, or maybe not actively hunting, but it's something you want? For me, it's still Spider-Man 121, The Death of Gwen Stacy. I keep going back and forth where I'm like, I'm just going to hunt for a raw, but then I'm like, well, maybe I want to grade it. At this point, I'm whatever I come across that's at a price I can afford. Fantastic Four. Oof. All right, John, going big. Would it be number 1, or would you prefer the Doctor Doom first appearance? I'm a huge Doom fan, and I'm going back and recollecting. I'd sold off, or my issues got ruined, of most of the McFarlane Peter David run of Incredible Hulk. I have the Epic collections, but I want the issues back again. Like, I know the iconic cover one is out of my price range, which I kind of hate myself for the fact that I allowed them to get ruined. But I read the fuck out of them. Gamma Bomb run was one of my favorite runs of Hulk all time. Oof. I think the earliest Fantastic Four I've ever had in my hands was like 41. I have a friend who has Primer number 3. It's not graded. I've looked at it, and I'd say at best it's like a 7. But still, he has every Grendel issue, so he went through hell to collect all of them. Cerebus is one that I have gone back and forth about. Do I like the character? Do I hate the character? So I have had X-Men number 1 in my hands. I have had Daredevil number 4 in my hands. Those were the biggest grails I've ever had in my hands. The X-Men number 1 I sold as a 2.5. My UPS driver was having surgery, and he gave me 3 Tupperware boxes full of old 60s comics, and those 2 issues were in there. The Daredevil number 4 was easily a 9. Got a decent amount of money. I think for the books he gave me, I got him about $2,000. He had a lot of Strange Tales, the early issues, and also Tales of Suspense. Also, shout out to No Good Comics, because he ended up picking up Giant Size X-Men this year. I can't even imagine what I would do with that book. It's such an amazing issue that changed the whole landscape of a book that was about to be canceled. Like, and then you go and look at Chris Claremont's weird panel he did over at C2E2 this past week, and oh boy. Wow. We're going to start calling John Ross the big boss 4 times. Wow. I have never even been in the presence of that issue, so congratulations on having it in your presence 4 times. 4 times. 4 times. Sorry, I had to do a little Ric Flair. I think my first run-in with Cerebus was TMNT. It actually might have been the earliest issue of that book I ever owned, which still amuses me that TMNT still has such a huge following. That cartoon and movie continues to just grow. That it's like that in Power Rangers. Power Rangers surprised me that it still has such a following because that was such a nothing show to me growing up. Well, not even growing up. Like, I was already out of high school when that started. But I guess it's to, a younger generation what Batman the Animated Series was to a lot of us in our 40s now. Oof. Daredevil 1. Ooh. I had an Avengers 5 and Avengers 16 at one point. And again, like looking at those books, it's just like, how am I in possession of these? I always marveled when I got big books. At one point, before I had lost my job with Barnes & Noble, I had chased down and got all of the major Miller keys and then eventually had to sell them back after I lost my job. But Dark Knight Returns, weirdly, I had a harder time getting issue 3 than I did any of the other issues. 3 was a nightmare, and then collecting year 1, getting the first issue in a good grade because that fucking black cover was a nightmare. Like, utterly a nightmare getting above like a 9.2 because of that stupid fucking covers. See you, Gamut. Thanks for checking in, man. I will catch you around. I could talk about collecting dumb books, like not even dumb books, but stuff that I chased. And once I got it in my hands, I was like, all right, what do I do with it? So we are over the hour mark. I think I'm going to call it for the night because I really don't want to get super drunk. Oh. Okay, hold on. Or maybe I'm not done because John just brought up something that's going to fucking... So, Valiant. The company that Wizard bumped up to godlike status. I had one of my worst experiences ever in a comic store because of a Valiant book. Solar Man of the Atom number 10, the spot varnish cover. Okay, well, Spider's Comics here. I'm gonna stay on then. So I went to a comic store that had opened close by to where I live. And this was 1992, 93. And they had Solar Man of the Atom number 10, the spot varnish cover, which Wizard said was, biggest book. You have to have it. I walked up to the counter. It was marked at a certain price. The guy looked at it, marked it up 7 times what it was marked. I literally took the book, threw it on the counter, and walked out and told him to go fuck himself. And I will never forget that moment because that is where the markup at the counter thing really hit me. I like my anger, and then seeing now people posting stuff from comic shops like, we're gonna check on eBay when you go to the counter. Go fuck yourself. Like, fuck you. It angers me. But I will say, like, John, that trade, I would do it all day. I would throw away all those Valiant books, the spot varnish, the chromium, all that bullshit. Fuck. Good on you. So I'm trying to think. Avengers number 4. Oh God, what is Avengers 4? Was that Kang? Or was Kang later on? My uncle died. I found in the garage sale. I've seen those stories. Yes, I have. I would actually 400 for Amazing Spider-Man 1. I would do all day probably. Like that's not bad. Okay, yeah, first cap. Yeah, like 100%. I do that all day. Like first cap. Yeah, like no problem. I did for a while. I was chasing the first Silver Surfer, and I just kept hitting roadblock after roadblock because at a certain point I just gave up, and I ended up picking up. The Mobius Silver Surfer Parable instead because I just love Mobius's art. I literally have never seen a Hulk 181 in person. I have never ever. I mean, mine might have had crabs. I mean, he go to strip clubs a lot, but definitely not a Hulk 181. Although we can get into that whole thing with Hulk 180, 181. Is Wolverine's first appearance 180 or is it 181? You could go either way with it. Is it a cameo or is it the first full appearance? Where are we at with this? So I did hear people start chasing the first Wonder Man. And I don't know exactly if they think Wonder Man's appearing in something. Like, I don't understand it. I do have a series actually I'm chasing now. Besides Tomb of Dracula, I've decided randomly that I'm going to rebuild my Tomb of Dracula. I know I'm not going to get Tomb of Dracula 10. Like, I'm not even trying to get the first Blade. But I bought all the epic collections of Tomb of Dracula, and now I kind of just want to get the issues. And I'm also rebuilding my ROM series. I have a ROM number 1. I have that grade. I have that graded, and I've got a 9.6 of it. I usually try to, with issues, I'll go to the mid-average between the two. Like, if I'm going to make an offer, I will go somewhere in between the highest and the lowest and try and find a happy medium. Yeah, Tomb of Dracula, Gene Colan, like, his stuff is so good. And I think he's a slept-on artist. Like, there are panels in Tomb of Dracula that are just so good. And I go between, is it the colorist and the inker making him look so good, or his stuff that good? And then I saw raws of his stuff, and he's just that damn good. First Wonder Man. Oof. You know what? At least you put your books to good use. Like, you sold it and put your damn kids through college. Like, how many people can say that? I also, as far as like artists go, I think Paul Neary might be a slept on artist. And oh god, there was the fill-in X-Men artist who, it might have been Paul Neary. There's a couple of artists that I think are incredibly slept on. Very much so. Paul Smith, yes. Paul Smith, I feel, is so slept on. His fill-in issues would be prime for anybody. I honestly believe that Paul Smith, he's underrated. He's super underrated. And I've had this weird argument with people about Art Adams. Art Adams is one of the most deified artists who couldn't put a damn book out. He might have been built for covers more than anything. I love Art Adams, but to hear all the image artists, most of them deify him to a crazy extent. And outside of Longshot, that might have been his only consistent book he put out. Rob Liefeld talks about a lot of stuff, but I will give Rob Liefeld credit. He negotiated an insane contract when he created Cable and Deadpool, where he got a percentage of whatever they put out of Deadpool and Cable. And I will give him some business acumen there. Now, him selling Youngblood and everything else on the side, not so great. Milo Manara, interesting artist. There's been some stuff they put out that was very good, some stuff not so good. That makes a lot of sense now too. Oof. Art Adams still classic X-Men #1. Best comic cover. I hands down, I think it's one of my most iconic comic covers, especially for an X-Men book. And now I know I was confusing Paul Smith and Paul Neary because I was reading Squadron Supreme the other day, and Paul Neary was one of the fill-in artists on it. I will give Rob Liefeld a little bit credit. His Robservations podcast, very interesting. I mean, of course, in it, Rob never does wrong, but usually pretty fascinating. Okay, Spider's telling a story. Alrighty. Spider also has had a lot of takes on the acetate gate. Adams, Byrne, and Bolton. Fuck. I also never thought that we'd have a time where there was something called acetate gate. And I checked the Twitter feed for it because it just amuses the fuck out of me. Like, just so you know, CGC would have rated that as a green, I believe, label. As I think it's green. Unless you're Black Flag Comics and it's a blue universal, but I can bitch about Black Flag Comics forever, I think, at this point. Just gonna check on them real quick. Bleeding Cool is living off of these things about Black Flag. Now they're doing lollipop stuff. Green with someone has written Byrne, Bolton, and Adams on a splash page. Fantastic. It's weird. Byrne is someone And I read that Secret Origin of Marvel Comics book, and I don't know how much of it's true because Rob Liefeld says a bunch of it is bullshit. But if John Byrne actually like made an effigy of Jim Shooter and burned it in his backyard, that is some awesome shit. I'm sorry, like that is just ridiculously awesome. I've never seen Kirby. I did meet Stan Lee at MegaCon in the 90s, and he called me a sinner. I had a Thing statue, and his handler there didn't want him right. It's clobbering time. Stan turned around and wrote, "It's clobbering time." And then he handed it to me and goes, "Sit on, sinner." That's my Stan Lee story. Yeah, weirdly, I think my biggest burn thing was Alpha Flight, and then New Universe was out when I started collecting. So when he blew up Pittsburgh, I wasn't totally against it. I remember there was the John Byrne Says Twitter account, and I just remember going, "Man, this guy's an asshole." And he probably is. I mean, there's a good chunk of artists that I've met who are raging assholes. I almost got into a fist fight with an artist at a con almost 20 years ago. He was with Top Cow and at their booth, and I've not even communicated with that person since, but it was not a good experience. Yes, Starbrand. I forget what issue, but they had the whole story of the pit. Starbrand blew up Pittsburgh because that's where Jim Shooter was born. He blew the whole fucking city up and then left the book and let them recover from it. Spider, if you're talking about my argument with the artist, basically he showed up drunk and he was an asshole and he got a little belligerent with me, and I was a maybe 22-year-old with a whole lot of testosterone blowing through me and also hungover from being at a casino the night before, and didn't help the situation. They are still a artist that is working. They have a book that has a cybernetic woman in it. It is steampunkish, and as far as I will go. I wish I had met Len Wein because I've seen so many interviews with him that are fucking hysterical. I posted a video not long ago about him calling Alan Moore to ask him to work on Swamp Thing, and Alan Moore fucking hung up on him because he thought it was his dickhead buddies fucking with him. And Alan Moore was like, "Do you want me to do the book like you did?" He's like, "I hope not." Dave Cockrum also, I feel like he catches a lot of shit. John Byrne wasn't exactly nice to him or Cockrum's wife. There's some stories about that as well. But I mean, my interview I'd love to have is with Jim Shooter because there's so many things I want to ask him, and I'm sure there's a lot that he would not want to talk about, and most of it would have to do with John Byrne. Although Jim Shooter is one of those guys who kept going from company to company because he went to Valiant, then he started Defiant with the Warriors of Plasm. People remember that. It actually had a card set that made the Zero issue. If you got the inserts, I am old enough to remember that. Shooter's blog is there's some incredible stuff on there. Jim Shooter is one of those characters who there was an idea that came out and he ran with it, and that was with killing characters. He wanted to thin out everything. And honestly, when he started Valiant, I thought that was good. There was characters people didn't know. It was properties people didn't know. He made it very valid. I mean, also if you look at it, the properties still exist, which is good. Maybe too many trick covers. I think that might have been maybe the downfall, but it kept that company thriving for a long time. I remember the Chromium cover by Joe Quesada for Ninjak #1. And if you remember Ninjak #1, you remember that it was big. Turok #1, big. Magnet Rye, I forget what number Rye. Exo Man of War was big. Like, they just kept putting out solid book after solid book, and then it just went downhill. Jim Shooter did some okay writing. He's one of those classic cases of got high on his own supply. And the 80s was full of that. There was so many people that just in the 90s also, because there was Stephen Platt. I don't know if people remember, he was on Moon Knight. He was the second coming of Todd McFarlane. And then Rob Liefeld bought him a car and got him to come over to Image, or not even Image, Extreme, to do Profit. And dude couldn't put out a fucking book on time. And the best part is, one of my good friends worked on Bloodstrike at the time and had to do the Bloodstrike Profit crossover. And there's some stuff out there. I'm not gonna throw my friend under the bus, but he's told some tales in the past. Korvac Saga, fucking great, and kind of an underused character. They brought him back in the recent Iron Man, but I don't think they wrote him well. Korvac was godlike, and it's kind of like the Thanos thing where he was so powerful to find his weakness was kind of painful to get to. But he was a slave that ended up finding a way out of being a slave, and then, got his legs back. His nose is so bloodshot. If you take him, he looks so red. But has he driven a woman into the river and then left her and then called the police? That's Ted Kennedy like. Oh, wait. I shouldn't have said that. According to YouTube, I have nobody here, but I am I see people collecting Werewolf by Night now, and I don't know if there's certain issues worth collecting, but I don't know if it's worth buying into. I like Werewolf by Night, but I don't love it. I did go through a phase where I was collecting West Coast Avengers, and a lot of it was because of the character Shroud. The Shroud is one of those interesting characters because he created the Night Shift, which was all like the B-list horror villains, like the Digger, Tatterdemalion, Gypsy Moth, and the Brothers Grimm. which the Brothers Grimm are such a silly villain characters. And they're all from like Werewolf by Night, Moon Knight, and Spider Woman villains. And it was I wish they created a series of them, because in a world in the 90s where we had Sleepwalker, Darkhawk, and there was one other dumb hero series we got. Oh, we also got Super Pro. That's for you, Bearded Comic Bro, because I know you love Sleepwalker. You love Super Pro. Yeah, the Brothers Grimm are fascinating, but the Spider-Woman books were not great. I would even go as far as the She-Hulk books were not good at all. I really didn't like She-Hulk until she got involved with the Fantastic Four. Jen, Jen, if you want to come on, just let me know and I can send you the link. You can talk about all your hatred now that you're off of work. We already talked about the acetate gate, which is I never thought I'd utter those words ever. Okay. So there is a Dwayne McDuffie internal memo when he was dealing with Marvel, where he basically said, "What character do you want me to pitch? Is it Negro on a skateboard? Because that's all you guys ever publish." Okay, Jen, I have to ask, what sauce are you using with the chicken nuggets? Are you honey mustard or are you straight barbecue? These are the hard questions. These are the ones we need to ask. Yes, we are very distinguished gentlemen. We are collectors. We are angry collectors. Is it on Jim's? Oh my god! I had watched a Dwayne McDuffie biography, and they talked to one of his collaborators at Milestone talked about that. I didn't know that was on Shooter's blog. If it is, that's awesome that he would even publish it. Oh, super deluxe sauce. Is that like the Arby's sauce where it's a mystery, but because it's Arby's, you don't question it? Is it officially Sunday yet? Because Chick-fil-A is not serving, sir. It is the Lord's Day. No, Jen would never go to Chick-fil-A. It's too religious. She would be wearing her satanic cult stuff. Although I will say Chick-fil-A's waffle fries, fucking great. But if I'm gonna like just kill myself with my liberal leanings, I will go to Publix. Publix, because the pub subs are just like, okay, you donated money to Trump, but do you have the chicken tender sub? And you do? Okay, cool. They also have Nashville spicy hot fried chicken. Also, I'll give that a 8 out of 10. It also hurts later on going out, but it is good going down. Hold on one second while I deal with something. I know this is very fascinating. Keep it going, chat. I will be there in a minute. You're definitely allowed Chick-fil-A, Jen. They know your type. They know you want the waffle fries. They know you want that chicken sandwich. Marvel Comics history blog. Okay. Because I remember, because Marvel famously had Night Thrasher and Rocket Racer. Rocket Racer is basically another African American character with a skateboard, but it has rockets on it. Night Thrasher used his skateboard as a weapon. What is the difference? Not really much. Also, while Jen is here, I see she has her bestie coming on her show tomorrow, David F. Walker, aka Mofo Man. They have shared waffles, so that is a huge deal. And cool that she is having her first famous guest on. Yes, the Amazing Spider-Man issues of Rocket. So weirdly, I always liked the Prowler though. Maybe it was because of the costume. So Jen, I have to ask you: are you giving him waffles to come on your show? Because for those who don't know, every Wednesday, Jen, when she goes pick up her comics, gets the most gregarious waffles I've ever seen, where even if it's not waffles and chicken, it is stuff that where you're just like, oh, my cholesterol just jumped 20 points looking at this. And I both want them and I also want to hide from them. Is that good? I don't know. But I kind of want that. Also, Jen's one of her favorite books is Bitterroot, and I was, of course, you'll be inviting him to waffles. It's a payoff. We understand. But what I really want to know, Jenna, is when are you going to get a acetate Super Pro for Bearded Comic Bro? I know his birthday must be coming up soon. Like, we can get him a 10.0. I'm pretty sure of it. I took pills. Look at Jen's post. I literally, like, every Wednesday, I'm like, oh, man, like, I want some of that. And at the same time, and I know when I say I want some of that, it sounds sexually. These waffles, I might. Like, there's just, I can see if I had diabetes, my blood sugar spiking. I don't currently, but I mean, I have a lot of other problems with me, but those, yeah. I'm also like, I'm 2 weeks behind on my current reads. I'm almost caught up to this week, and I cannot fucking catch up. Well, now we have the secret of it. I want to put this shit over. That's not even breakfast. That is lunch. I appreciate the blueberries and bananas because I am allergic to chocolate. So that is what I have to go with. Although I did get the people at Publix to realize that if they don't put chocolate on the cannolis, I will buy them. That is my weakness, cannolis. Like, the Italian in me won't stop going after them. And the Publix near me is like, every time he's here, he bitches about the chocolate. We'll put out like one or two without chocolate, and thank you. Also horrible that I'm allergic to chocolate because that's like everything out there right now. Jen, we've been putting out like, what's a series that you've been reading that maybe nobody's reading that should be? I would, yes, I'm allergic to chocolate. It makes my throat close, and I will have to go to the hospital. It's not a great look. I will name one of the comics queens now. One of her top ones is the Kill Lock. I've actually, since the first series, grown to love that book, and I really, really dig it. It's really good, and the artist and writer Livio Ramondelli is doing a great job on it. Um, really, Poison Ivy. I can't tell what Poison Ivy is the real Poison Ivy at this point. We've had so many Poison Ivies between what went on in Swamp Thing and now this. Um, or is it because that she's killing men in it? Is that what it is? Is that why you're attracted to it? No, I'm kidding. I'm not even sure who's writing this series for Poison Ivy. I read the first 2 issues, but I did see everybody posting the House and Powers of X are great. I ended up buying the hardcover for that. Bolero, I didn't love, but I liked. I still, for like the last 2 years, I would say that Bliss is one of my favorites. Barbalian. I'm still liking Nita Hawes because it's just different from Philadelphia. There was another book I'm murdering now that I don't remember. But I will say a book that I should like that I don't is the new Ghost Rider book. I want to like it, but I just can't get my head around it. And I mentioned earlier the Chip Zdarsky Batman. It's just not doing it for me. Maybe I'm just falling out of love with Batman. That might have happened. And then a book that I feel like I need more of, but it's not there, is Greg Rucka's. Holy fuck! I just blanked on it. Well, besides Old Guard, oh no, Lazarus. Also, Black Magic. Black Magic was a great book. I did not read Survival Street. I didn't even see that in even my digital. Huh. I will have to look that one up. Yes, the Old Guard is basically different immortals through time. There's a Netflix series on it. But Greg Rucka has always done a fantastic job writing strong women. And in particular, this one was very well done. But definitely go back and look at his and J.H. Williams' run on Batwoman and Detective Comics if you really want the best of him. Also, the Greg Rucka Greg Rucka's Lazarus is also very well done. it's also weird that we had Greg Rucka and oh no, I blanked out. Fuck. Muppets Equal Meet Southland Tales. Southland Tales was Southland Tales was horrible. Horrible. Oh God. I don't know what to think of that. I have been reading. I've been reading Basilisk, and I've been really enjoying that. That one's been consistently fairly solid. The horror books of lately haven't been great, and my reading's been kind of all over the place. Muppets Meet Southland Tales. Kevin Smith's in Southland Tales, so you know it's not great. All right, we are almost at the 2-hour mark, and I am hitting a level of drunk I don't want to be. I think I'm gonna wrap this up. Now that we don't have last minute people jumping in, I was going to stop this an hour ago almost, but I want to thank everybody for showing up and coming and chatting. I know this was completely random, and it's weird doing a LongBox Paradox without Jen, although Jen's here in the chat. But it's been almost a year and a half since the last time we did one, and I'm probably going to be out of pocket for a little bit with some stuff going on. But thank you everybody for showing up and chatting tonight. There's stuff I wanted to get out of my system, especially about Acetate Gate and Black Flag Comics and just talking about shit we love. Honestly, like I love this medium. I love to talk about it. I love to read every week, and I think we don't do enough to spread our love of it. I know Jen and Mars every week on their show on Sundays, their Casual Comics, talk about it. I think it's our duty to pass it on and pass on our love of comics and talk about what we like, or even try and turn on somebody new to something we like. I don't like the direction that the community's gone with the nonstop selling and also spec heavy side of it. I hate it. I want people to read. I want people to enjoy. I want people to pass it on. Anyway, that's my one to grow on, I guess. But thank you, John, Spiders Comics, Jen, Sleepy Reader, everybody else that came on, Mastodon. It's people like you that keep me going and doing this and just part of the community. So I salute you all. Good night, everybody.